Hey, welcome. This is going to be a little masterclass on embodied coaching. So this is the main thing I do. This is what I'm known for. Well, I'm known for many things, but I'd say this is the one thing I'm actually good at. If you haven't seen, we have a course called the Certificate of Embodiment Coaching, and I wanted to if you have done it. And yeah, that's where I train coaches to work with the body. So if you're interested in working with the body more safely, more effectively, have a look at KEC. You'll find it online, Certificate of Embodiment Coaching, and you'll find it in the chat if you're here. If you want properly training, you're not going to get it in 45 minutes on a Zoom call or by watching the YouTube video if you're watching the YouTube video. That being said, I will be doing my absolute best to help you as much as possible in the time we have. I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes. I'll keep it a little bit interactive, and there'll be time for questions at the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, questions in the chat. We will get to them at some point. Good. So what do you want? What are you here for? If you could put that in the chat, one sentence or less, why are you here? I'd like that kind of from everyone. Like, what is it you would like? Also, if you want to say if you're a coach already or something related, like a therapist, or maybe just like a mum who does coaching with her kids unofficially, there's lots of kind of ways in. If you could put that in the chat. Okay, let's start with, great. Thank you, Emmerich. Let's start with, why would we include the body in coaching? Why do you think? Why would we include the body in coaching at all? Why not just talk with people? Why not just look at thinking? There's nothing wrong with looking at, people's beliefs and thinking. Why might we work with the body in coaching at all? See what my answers are. I have for many years taught this topic, and this is a slideshow I was using with a Henley Business School not long ago. And this question comes up for people. So where are we? Yeah, there's a little bit of background about me, actually. I've trained over 1,000 coaches. I wrote the book on the topic. It's probably, I think, the most practical, comprehensive book on this topic. Maybe one of the few kind of real textbooks about it. One of the more experienced people in the world, I'd say, on this niche at this point. There are others I can mention, but yeah, I've been around a while doing this. It's interesting. I Googled coaching, and all these people came up in chairs, right? These were all the pictures that came up, and it's all people sitting down, not moving. I thought, okay, that's interesting. When you Google coaching, this is Google's image appeal of what coaching looks like. Every single one of them in a chair. Yeah. Does coaching have to be done sitting down in a chair, not moving? I would say no. I do a lot of my coaching walking. You can do it lying down. You can do it making shapes, jumping around, all sorts of things. This is my answer. If someone says, why do I work with the body in coaching? Well, yeah, it's what I teach. We train coaches, but I just say it's part of who we are. And it's usually the part that people are missing. So most of my clients are fairly clever people, and they can't think their way out of a problem. Yeah, they can't think their way out of a problem. Also, it's very accessible. So if I were to say to you guys today, change your thinking, or even worse, change your spirit or feel differently, how? Right. But if I were to say, take a deep breath or put your hands here or, stand up, that's something we can all do. So if we look at a kind of for an Asian lens, like in a tantric model, they'd say that the body is the most manifest aspect of self. Yeah. It's the part you can touch. This is why when we love someone, we hug them and kiss them. Yeah, because that's more manifest than you can tell them. That's nice. You could read them poetry. That's nice. Anyone ever tried to have a long distance relationship? Everyone tried that? It's difficult, isn't it? It's tricky because it's not great because you can't touch them. Yeah, you can't do embodied process with them, like, I don't know, eating a meal. There's a good one for my Italian host. Thank you, Julia. Eating with people is not, it's not just consuming food, it's an embodied process of connection. Yeah, the Mediterranean has figured this out. I don't think us North Europeans are always so smart on that. Sex, obviously, play, all these embodied processes. Is Zoom good for learning? It's not bad. You can get information across on Zoom. What I like about Zoom is you can spread things out, but you still have to involve the body if you want people to learn. Yeah. It works. That's the other thing I'd say about embodied coaching. It's just what works. If reading books were the answer, There'd be like one self-help book. Yeah. One of my teachers used to call self-help shelf help because you keep it on the shelf. Yeah. Shelf help. Um, it's just also if you want something to stick. So you can read a book and you can get it. Go, yeah, that's smart, that's clever, but then it goes away. It's the same even if you have an experience. Maybe you go to a coaching workshop and you jump up and down and there's music, or you go to Peru and you take ayahuasca and you have a strong experience, but then that experience fades. So embodied coaching tends to stress embodied practice as part of it. Yeah, so not just insight. Yeah, insight comes a lot through the body, but also practice. There's a few quotes. It's one from Socrates on practice. It's one from another embodiment teacher, Joseph Heller. So that's Stuart Heller. Got that wrong. I'm going to correct that right now. Joseph Heller's an author. Here's another one. The body doesn't lie. Has anyone heard that? Not technically always true, but pretty good starting point. If you're a drug addict, the body does lie. And Albert Einstein, learning is experience. Everything else is just information. Sometimes I joke, Wikipedia hasn't solved the world's problems, right? Like we have information. Yeah. Someone's writing that down. It's a good quote, isn't it? Hashtag Mark Walsh. Wikipedia hasn't solved the world's problems. I mean, I learned this in my own life. I was very clever as a young man, very high IQ, but I still had loads of problems, addictions and mental illnesses and different problems. So what it really comes down to is a misunderstanding of what learning is. So I was working with a French conference yesterday. So I had this slide that learning about France is very different than learning to speak French or learning to be French. So this is a Japanese Aikido teacher who lived in France for 50 years and he became very enculturated into Frenchness. There's the picture I hid for the French yesterday. Yeah. So yeah, the idea here of Frenchness or the experience of like having a love affair in Paris is very different than reading a book about Paris. Yeah, John Vervaeke is a philosopher, talks about ways of knowing. And I would say that coaching has more in common with learning French or learning to drive or learning to kiss. It has more in common with that than just getting information. Yeah. Most of my coaches come to me and they've got problems that are embodied, things like stress response, right? Any of your clients, coaches, any of your clients come to you and say every time, I'm completely happy, my life is perfect, I have no stress? No. Okay. How do your clients generally turn up to coaching? In the chat, how do they generally turn up? What state are they in when they come up to coaching? Generally, occasionally they're in a good mood. Yeah. Great. Miklos, welcome. How do they generally turn up? Just in like a word or two. I keep this interactive. I find learning is very boring. It's just me lecturing you. Tense, sad, anxious, tense, stressed. Yes, I'm mostly looking knackered. Yes, that's true. I usually say some mixture of exhaustion and stress normally, isn't it? Yeah. Technical term for that is all fucked up. Okay, that's how they turn up to coaching. All right. 9 times out of 10, 1 times out of 10, they're on holiday, they've had a day off, but generally they're just that modern mixture of burnt out, exhausted, anxious, slightly depressed, usually very stressed. So, how do you think coaching goes when someone's in that state? Or let's put it another way. Are you at your best when you're in that state? Like, if coaching's about bringing out the best of someone, it's about learning, it's about creativity. Would you agree with all this? Would you agree with all this? Coaching is about learning, creativity, bringing out the best in someone, helping them have new ideas, maybe. All right, let me do another test. Where do you have your new ideas? Where do you have all your best ideas? Where do you have your best ideas? All those of you who are passively listening and not contributing, jump in. Okay, this isn't Mark TV. It's not a dancing monkey. This is a collaborative effort. Mm, yeah. So where do you have your best ideas? I can pretty much guarantee it. Like I know what you're going to say. In fact, I've got a slide with the answers on. Here's my slide. I've asked thousands of people this all around the world. I've taught in like 50 countries. And this is what they say. Okay, they normally say when I'm out in nature, when I'm walking, when I'm in the shower, sometimes on the toilet. The French said in bed, interestingly, more than other cultures yesterday, which I thought was interesting. I don't normally get that response, but maybe it's, I don't know what the French are doing in bed, but you have to be relaxed and moving and in your body. Yeah, sometimes it's like staring out the window when you're just relaxed, but normally think about taking a shower, you're moving, you're feeling your body, and water's relaxing. Generally, you're not on your phone, you're not using technology, you're not stressed out. Yeah. So people have the best ideas when they're embodied. Okay. If this is a new term for you, embodied means you're in your body, you're present, you're aware of your body. Embodiment is the subjective study of the body. Yeah. So not the body as an object, as a thing, but the body as part of who we are. If we're coaching, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get different results with people, right? How do they get different results? They do different things. Okay. It's not definition of madness. We'll be doing the same thing again and again, expecting different results. How do they do different things, though? It comes from who they are. Okay, so this model exists in various ways. Even the American military in their officer training use this model. I think they call it be, do, get. Yeah, so you've got to go to the B model of being, the ontological level. That's what they call it in new field coaching, ontological level, to do something different to get a different result. You with me? If you just tell people to get a different result, how? Okay, tell them to do something different. That's the level most coaches operate at. But if someone's the same person, they're not going to do something different, right? It's like cross your arms. Everyone cross your arms. You just did it the way you always do it. And if you cross them the other way, it feels weird, right? Yeah. Whoa. Okay, you can do it with practice, but generally people just do what's their habit. So one way of looking at embodiment is as a set of habits that have partially solidified. This is also common sense. Like dog breeds have this, right? Like kids have it less than adults because kids are less solidified. Kids are much more, if you look at the postures of children, they're very similar around the world. They breathe in a relaxed way, their posture's quite upright. And as they get older, they get trauma, they get enculturated, they develop a character, we could say. So what does that mean? It becomes their behavioral repertoire narrows. People come to coaching when something isn't working. Yeah. They don't come to coaching when everything's working fine. They don't say, I would like to give you money. My life is brilliant. If that is you, then please get in contact. I would love to coach you because it sounds like you'd be an easy client. Okay. However, generally, in my experience, actually 100% of the time, people come and they say, I'm not getting a result I want. Yeah, it's like I'm arguing with my husband. I can't find a girlfriend. I'm not getting the results I want. I can't get a promotion. So, okay, let's do something different. How do we do something different? We have to go back to the level of their being. So, what does embodied coaching consist of? You guys follow me so far? Give me a thumbs up. This is making sense. I go quite quick just because I'm so used to teaching this stuff. It's been literally years and years, and tell me if it's ridiculous. So we tend to think of coaching and learning as all in people's brains. People tend to think of themselves as a Mr. Spock, the logical or the brain taxi. We're not logical at all, right? Like advertisers know this. They're not advertisers aren't trying to change your logical theory. They're trying to emote an embodied state. It's Coca-Cola, right? It's an emotion, it's music, it's color, it's dancing. It's not like, hey, did you know Coca-Cola is a better drink than strawberry flavored Volvic water? Because blah, blah, blah. They don't logically inform you. They're not stupid. It's the same if you're on a date, right? Could you imagine being on a date and trying to convince the other person? Like, this is the reason I am the best lover in the world and you should marry me. Is because on this Excel spreadsheet, you'll clearly see the orgasm balance of my last 5 partners. And no, that would be a very strange way to have a date, right? On a date, hopefully you're trying to, connect, get to know the person, have a good state, a shared experience, hopefully. You can't learn kissing from a book. You can't learn driving from a book. Wikipedia hasn't solved all the world's problems, right? The other thing is you always have a body. Always. So someone said, oh, I just email all day. What's embodiment got to do with that? Yeah, but stressed guy emailing is very different than relaxed, happy guy emailing. It's going to be a different email. Yeah. Just whatever you're doing, it's there. So I'm not going to go too much into defining embodiment, but the body is I, not it, is the kind of key thing. Embodiment comes from different embodiment practices. They're all in my book, and it would take ages to go through them. There are literally thousands of embodied practices. For coaches, though, you don't need to do Aikido or yoga or conscious dance. I mean, that will help you, but that's not the key thing. The key thing is some practical embodied tools, which I'll come to in a bit. This is what it all comes down to. So I'm going to spend a bit of time on this. So as a coach, you need to be doing 8 things. This takes me 6 months to teach on Keck. So if it feels rushed today, it's because it is. All right. It's a 6-month journey. If you want to do it, 6 months, not 6 years, but 6 months. As a coach, you need to know how you are. So this morning I woke up, I was a bit tired. I won't give you all the reasons as to why, but let's just say I was up late last night. And I said to myself, you know what? My coaching's not going to be great this morning. I had 8 a.m. Coaching demos unless I sort this out. So I was aware of my state. Yeah, I was like a bit tired. So, okay, made sure I had a good breakfast. I went for a walk outside, did a couple of breath exercises. Then I was much more ready to coach. Yeah. Also, while I was coaching, I did quite a tender coaching demo about half an hour ago with a Ukrainian refugee. And I just checked in with myself. Is my tone appropriate here? Yeah. Am I in a state which is going to be gentle enough for this person? So as a coach, we do need to build bodily self-awareness. You can't learn that from a book. Yeah, this is why, meditation is mandatory for my students, that they have at least 10 minutes a day as a practice to learn to tune into themselves a little bit more. Yeah. Self-regulation. That's the other thing I was doing today. Sorry, I didn't turn my phone off and someone's texting me. Let me turn that off. Okay, self-regulation. So I was regulating myself. When I became aware of my state, i.e. a bit sleepy, I regulated myself. This is mostly the thing that coaches buy, is your state. If I was coaching all my coachees, my energy was like, hello, I'm your coach. I'm really going to help you. I say the cleverest things because I did a Harvard MBA in coaching. Like, who's going to rebook that person? I would say no one. Yeah, I would say nobody. No one wants to be around that. People remember how you make them feel. Observational skills. So one thing, as I was coaching in the last demo session, I think you get the recordings if you signed up for this as well, so you can see it. I'm observing the client. I'm noticing their breath pattern. I'm noticing their emotional state. Yeah, I'm noticing how they are. Yeah. And lastly, influencing them. So can you wake your client up, calm them down? Your job as a coach is as much to change their state as to help them have new ideas. They won't have new ideas if they're in the same old state. So partly that is influencing them. Actually, I had a problem yesterday. I was teaching centering, which is self-regulation, but I had a translator who was anxious. Really interesting, huh? So I was saying, okay, everyone, take a nice relaxed breath. And he was translating in French, take a nice relaxed breath. And I actually had to tell the translator, I said, look, can you slow it down, speak a bit more calmly? Because I knew he would ruin the exercise for the group. And to his credit, he did. It was a very good translation. He was just a bit nervous. He wasn't used to being on a big Zoom call. Nice guy. And he did, to his credit, and he changed his tone. And I had to do that because otherwise the words I said wouldn't have landed. Yeah, it would have actually created the opposite effect. So working with translators is really interpreters, sorry, it's really, really, really tricky. Okay, pattern I won't go to now, but let's just ask if there's any questions so far. So I'm going to give you a minute for questions. I'm going to check who this person calling me was. I was worried slightly when I have missed calls. No idea who that is. Okay, nothing that matters. Questions so far? Is this making sense? Yeah, seems so. Anything not clear? Okay, so let's look at pattern. Pattern is the bit you can't feel. So we can call this trait rather than state. So do you know your general lasting embodiment as a coach. There is a feel to each of you. Actually, even just looking on Zoom, right? Like you could probably guess. Yeah, and I don't know what mood you're in today, but underneath your mood for today is your general embodiment. Notice you don't feel this. It's like I don't taste my own mouth. It's well, I can taste this water because it's not normally in my mouth, right? Strawberry. It's very nice, Julia. Mm, I'm teasing her. So it's just, Italians are such food fascists. It's ridiculous. So anyway, um, you can't taste your own mouth. You can't smell your own house. Yeah. But when you go on holiday, you come back, you can smell it. So there's ways we work with coaches to reveal their embodiment. Some of you are chamomile tea, some of you are Red Bull. Right? Some coaches, they're always very slow, very relaxing. They're like late night radio DJs, and they're calming everyone down, easing you into the night. It's very different than, coaches who are like, right, I'm motivational, I'm energizing. I was listening to David Goggins on YouTube the other day, and he's like, you just got to do it. You got to do the thing. Who's going to carry the boat? Yeah, I'm David Goggins. And it's like, oh my God, come fucking David, chill out, Totally traumatized, by the way, David Goggins, but that's another story. Okay, made a video on it. Trauma awareness is very important for a coach. So they're just, two extreme examples, right? But you are doing something. We could say you have a archetype you embody, like who's the most motherly? Yeah. Who's the most warrior-like? Who's more like queenly? These are kingly. These are different energies. When people say energy, it sounds really abstract because it is. It's a not very exact word. Yeah, but what they're pointing to is your embodiment, the embodiment that other people will empathize with, and they'll take that on board. So, is that a good thing to do right now? Yeah, like right now, you are Stephanieing or Sylvian or Roniting or Amricking, you're a verb, and you're doing that to yourself. Okay, you're creating yourself. Yeah. But you're also doing it to everyone else. Okay. Anyone done a training like in a corporate group that really didn't want to be there? And you walk in and they've got their arms crossed. Amritz looks like he has, and you go, "Oh fuck!" Like they've all been sent by HR. They haven't been properly briefed. They'd rather be at work. They're looking at you just like, "Who is this twat?" They're just it's just not fun. And as soon as you walk in the room, you can feel it, right? You can feel it. That's the embodiment. And are those people teachable? Yeah, no, like it's very, like not in the immediate instance. Now you can do a sales job on them and make them teachable. You can I will draw their attention to it. I will actually make a joke about their embodiment. Yeah. And then I say, oh, look at you guys, look at arms crossed. And it's, if you can do that, you can open people up, you can make them laugh, but you have to change their state first, right? Like make a joke, break the ice, shake a few hands, introduce yourself, establish some credibility, and then the embodiment shifts, right? Or with my students, I just shift the embodiment. We can skip all that. Yeah. So, like right now, as you're listening to this, what embodiment are you in? Is it helping your learning? Most of you look, I would say, like fairly open, fairly curious, fairly available. Yeah, but not like too open, not like, oh, great cult leader, tell me what is the truth, the one and can you just do that for a minute? No, you probably better not. You probably better not. Yeah, Greta's bowing down in worship. She's a feisty Swedish woman. There's no way she's gonna go into that. Okay, so we have a range of embodiments as coaches, yeah. So if you look back at the demo, the one I just did this morning, I'm thinking of the last one. We talk about grief and I'm literally laughing and making jokes and taking the piss in a 15-minute session. Okay, so we're going from war trauma grief, someone who's a refugee, and then I'm literally teasing her for saying she has too many options in life and playing a pretend violin to mock her. And that's within 10 minutes. Actually, Stephanie, you're in the session. Can you confirm this is real? I didn't just make this up. Okay. So that's a big range as a coach from tender, slow, spacious, and then to much more humorous, and then right, clarity. What's your takeaway? What have you learned? these are different embodiments for me. Yeah. Different clients need different embodiments. And in this case, within the same 15-minute session, she needed different embodiments. So if I could just do the tender, vulnerable, open grief kind of coaching, you know, there's a certain way you coach people when they're talking about losing their home in a war, hopefully. But if I can just do that, what about when we need to go into action? Yeah, when we need a sort of more ambitious mood, when we need a more going forwards, what we're going to do. She was talking about passion. It's a very different embodiment. So you need to be a Swiss Army coach. Does that make sense, that analogy? So rather than being a one size fits all, in English we say a one trick pony. Yeah, you need to have different tools. You need to have different sides of your being. And we all have that to some extent, but what I do with my students is we nurture it. Yeah. So students or people like Julia who've trained with me for a while, they don't just have one embodiment. They are encouraged to do different things. Actually, Julia, what did we encourage you into when you were early days with me? Do you mind saying?
For sure, it was like being less impatient. I work on impatience for
That's it.
that was huge.
Because
Yeah.
impatience, which is very Italian, by the way, it's very cultural, right? That da-da, yeah. Actually working on coming back into the body, yeah, and slowing down through that. So
Yeah.
it's range. Yeah, this is cultural too, right? Like what do Italians embody really well?
But what the expressiveness?
Yeah, so Italians are known as being emotionally expressive, right? I'd
Yes.
say more so than our German friends who are here. Yeah.
Yes.
So like if I just look at you versus Stephanie, both nice people, both, you know, good coaches, I imagine, but different level of expressiveness. Yeah. And so it might be strong on embodied expression, but Italians are also known as being weak on self-control. Yeah.
Yes. And self-regulation, I will say. Like
Yeah.
everything is outside, right?
Right. My friend Marco, he said he'd just been caught having an affair by his wife, right? And I know both of them. And he came to me and says, Marco, he calls me Marco, even though his name's Marco. He says, Marco, the problem is there are too many women. Like he was basically saying that he was a victim and you know he couldn't
Yes.
and I had to sort of take him aside and said, Marco, if you have an affair, that's your responsibility. It's no one else to blame. You know, like he had a level of like impulsiveness around that. And I tried to, I said, there are too many women. He was really sad about it. And I was like, that's not an excuse, man. You need to be a grown up. You need to regulate yourself if you want to have a lasting relationship. Yeah. I should have changed his name, actually. His name is actually Marco. Anyway, moving on. So, yes, there we go. Bah, no self regulation. So, of course, we could stereotype here. There are Germans who are very expressive. There are Italians who are very self-controlled. There are subgroups, Northern Italy, Southern Italy, parts of, yeah. I just want to be careful here. We're not just saying, you know, we're not putting everyone in a box. But this is an example people kind of get. And there is an embodiment in places, right? It's the reason I like going on holiday to Italy is there's a lot of connection and warmth, and we eat food together there, and it's just a nice vibe, we would say, right? Whereas there's other cities that you just don't have the vibe, like Tel Aviv. I went on holiday to Tel Aviv once. Nice weather, great food, not very fucking relaxing. Okay, not very relaxing at all. It's just people are tense, people are stressed, and you know, there's history, there's trauma. Maybe let's not open that one up now. But there's plenty of you know, places that aren't relaxing to be around. Yeah, and not, you know, because of the vibe. It's like, what's your favorite city? What's your favorite city in the world? I bet it's to do with the embodiment, at least in part. It's probably to do with the physical beauty, but there's an atmosphere there, yeah. Favorite cities? I'm looking for places to go on holiday. What's your favorite city? And you might say, for what, right? People say, do you love Italy? I say, I love Italy for a holiday. I'm not sure I'd want to live there to work. Yeah, like you're just been in Sardinia, right, Julia? Like, you know, do you really want to work? Would that be a great place to start a business?
No,
Maybe you'd be better off in Munich.
but it's a great place to do season work because there's
Okay.
plenty of people that have money.
Yeah, it depends what Amric's put the point, depends
Yeah.
what you want to embody, right? So Sylvia said Lantas in Crete. I've not been there. Seville, I like Seville. Yeah, but again, that's probably you're thinking of a holiday, right? You're probably thinking that's a nice place to relax. Yeah. Whereas for me, I used to live in Brighton in England, which is a very fun town. It's really fun for a weekend. Yeah, if you live there, you end up a drug addict with seven genders, right? Like it's not, I would say, not a great place to like run a business. Just the energy doesn't support that. It's too chaotic. It's fun, but it's not contained. It's not boundaried. Yeah. I'd much rather be in Munich, as someone here is, to start a business. Yeah, or Stockholm. You know, these places that are a bit more structured. I like Stockholm, actually. It's very green. The nature's part of embodiment. You know, nature connection is the context we're in. Okay. So I just recap. I think I've said most of the things I want to say. So when talking about embodiment, to be clear, we're not talking about, you know, athleticism or anything like that, being beautiful. It's not about your physical shape. It's not body language, not just mindfulness, bit more than that. We're looking at, you know, something that may be blind to ourselves, you know, like shoes you've worn a long time. Sometimes I say this, I mean, the percentages obviously are just, you know, a bit random. But if someone said, you know, I'm interested in leadership, I'm interested in my health, I'm interested in relationships, communication, I'd say we need to look at the body. Yeah, just looking at the head and just thinking, I think, yeah, that's fine. You know, it's good to look at beliefs. I do that. But even beliefs, though, I look at it through the body. The body reveals the beliefs, right? And I often say, like, you know this, like a dog knows if you're friendly, kids know how to play together. You know, we dance with people we're attracted to. Like, these are things that are, you know, in human experience. I'm not telling you something new. If you want some philosophy, we do not have bodies, but we are bodily. That's Heidegger, clever man, a bit of a Nazi, but clever. And yeah, yeah, true story. So yeah, we have, but not we have bodies. It's almost a thing of English, right? We say my body, but I think that's a linguistic mistake. It's a shorthand, right? It's like we have one word for learning that actually covers many things. When we say my body, I was reading this philosophy book this morning, and it's had the what if you're a brain in a jar? You know, this philosophy experiment, this philosophy thought experiment. It's like, or the Matrix would be another one. You're uploaded to the Matrix. You know, or people say I'm going to upload my consciousness to the cloud, and it's like, yeah, but it wouldn't be you without the body, right? It wouldn't be you. Like you would be different. You would be fundamentally different without the body, because the body is impacting how we see the world, how we relate, our identity. This is not a small thing. You know, if somebody loses an arm, it's not like losing your glasses. It's not just inconvenient, right? This would be inconvenient if I lost my glasses. Yeah. To lose my arm would be a huge grief. It would be like I'd lost part of myself. You know, I manage a team in Ukraine and they work with amputees all the time. It's not, they haven't lost a thing, they've lost a part of them. And actually they never quite lose a part of them. Annoyingly, they can still feel it sometimes. It's something called phantom limb. Yeah. Okay, so there's some of the main things. Oh yeah, I kind of did this model, so let's put that forward. Yeah, if you want to have something different, you need to do something different. So you need to be something different. This is kind of a key insight. Basic coaching tools. The main one is yourself, your own embodiment. So we spend a lot of time on our coaching courses helping people get more deeply embodied and more range in their embodiment. So both of those things. You can keep this really simple though as a coach, you know, really just offering simple tools, state regulation, observing people, you know, looking at people's bodies, pointing out their embodiment, a little bit of centering, which is a kind of state regulation technique, you know, to get them out of this stressed way that they come to the coaching. Stressed people don't have good ideas. They don't have good coaching questions. So that often the first thing I do um, is just center the client to get them in a state where they can be more available for learning. You know, if you want to see demonstrations of this, we have one at 6 p.m. today, UK time. If you're watching this on the internet, you could go to Instagram. The 1 minute coaching there is very famous, very well known now. Lots, like literally millions of people have seen those demos. And on YouTube, we've got longer demos than 1 minute if you want to see a bunch of demos. If you're watching this there, there's a podcast, books, Instagram, YouTube demos I mentioned. I have competitors. If you don't like me, there are other people doing this work. That's Paul Linden, one of my teachers. Wendy Palmer was very good, sadly deceased now. It's Dylan Newcomb up there. So there's other people doing this work with coaches, but I think we've been around a while. If you sign up for Keck today, we will give you $100 off. It's not a trick. It's a very simple offer. If you've been thinking about training with us, try this, do this today, use this code, get $100 off, and you'll get the course slightly cheaper, which I think is good. So yeah, if you want coaching by me, of course, get in touch personally. But for those who are interested in training as coaches, that's an offer for today. All the details are on the website, like what days of the week it is, how long it lasts. It's very well structured. The other thing I'd say about it is nearly 80% of people who start the course complete the course. That is very unusual for online courses, very unusual. Yeah. You can also come and train with me in person. I'm in Amsterdam in the near future. Actually, I'm in the Lake of Constance, which is on the Swiss-German border. That is this weekend, and then Amsterdam later in the year. And then next year, I'll probably be in Slovenia, Munich, a bunch of places, Berlin, probably. Yeah. Good. All right. That leaves us 10 minutes for questions. Do you need a background in psychology and medicine for this coaching conversation? You definitely don't need medicine. There's nothing medical about it. Having some interest in psychology and coaching and embodiment is helpful. I'd say if you know an interest in those things, but you don't need to be like a certified psychologist or anything like that, Grace. You don't need to be a clinical psychologist. So yeah, good. There's also an offer on my coaching there. So questions? Any other questions at all? Will I finish off my strawberry water? It's delicious. Delicious, Julie.
How much sugar?
None. It's
Guilty.
sugar-free, so it's probably full of chemicals.
Yeah, exactly.
Natural strawberry flavor. There we go. And 2 types of sweeteners. Maybe not great.
Here we go.
Last call for questions. I can see someone typing, so I'll give you a minute. Any key takeaways today people want to share in the chat? What is your view on how we interpret different embodiments? Well, there's lots I could say about that. The first thing is that we look at other embodiments through our own embodiment, right? So, for example, in Russia, I wouldn't be considered aggressive. In England, I might be. Yeah, just as the viewing through a very different lens. The other thing I'd say is that we're always embodied in context, and if people jump to conclusions, they might be missing a context. So I mentioned culture, but also, you know, what's the relational context? Like if you saw me with my niece, you'd think I had a certain embodiment, but that's just the relational context I'm in compared to, I don't know, my mum or you guys, right? So you need to be careful of your own embodied lens that's distorting what you're looking at, and also the context that they're in. And I spoke to a body language expert, an ex-spy from the Netherlands. She was a Dutch spy. My life was complete when I spoke to a beautiful Dutch spy. And she was talking about the importance of having a baseline for understanding someone's embodiment in her language, like body language, a slightly different understanding of it. And she said, look, you've got to be really careful jumping to conclusions. Because she said, for example, if she's interrogating someone, she used to be like an interrogator for like, you know, kind of like the Dutch CIA. And they'd just be nervous about the fact that the CIA are interrogating them, right? So of course they're going to be stressed, right? So it's like she says she first had to make them relaxed before she could see any change in them. So I know like lie detectors and things like that are popular, but I'd be a bit dubious. Yeah. First manage your own state. Yeah, as a coach, that's really important, Stephanie. Disadvantages of online training. Yeah. So I love it when people do online training and in person with me. So I love it when they come to like a couple of workshops because then they can get the embodied transmission, the felt sense of it. The also things like, let's say we have a pose for boundaries, right? Poses for boundaries. They can look fine on Zoom, but then in a workshop, I'll push their hand and it'll collapse. So it's not actually a boundary. Yeah. So in order like to test the student, in order to give them better feedback, how they look, how they feel. I mean, there's no replacing, I think, you know, embodied work in person. But the problem with in person is everybody gets overwhelmed because it's quite an emotional experience. Everyone gets really tired. Yeah. Even if you know, give long lunch breaks and we calibrate what we're doing. Online, you can do an hour and then wait a week and then another hour. Yeah. So it's very unlikely that, you know, you're going to do a 6-month course with an hour in person every week, whereas online you can do that. So there's definite advantages to online in terms of spreading it out, the learning, because it's quite dense theoretically and in terms of emotional experience. Um, in terms of coaching online, I mean, I do that all the time. Like I did it this morning, right? Watch my, you know, there's online demos available on YouTube. Or come to the 6 p.m. slot. Like I coach on the phone all the time. Often what I do is I look at people on video chat and then go to phone coaching. But you don't have to do it in person. Some clients actually feel much safer when they're not in person. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I can't touch them, but I don't touch clients a lot anyway, because for example, in corporate world, it's just not really welcomed. So I might have them touch themselves rather than me touch them. Yeah. So lots of things are doable. Much more is possible online than I thought. But it's still, you know, it's still great if you can do stuff in person. Mm. Freeze response. I mean, a freeze response for me is a real yes, you can help them with mobilization. You can kind of co-regulate to some extent without that. But if someone's in a genuine freeze response, I mean, that's fairly severe trauma. That's trauma therapy time. That's not coaching technique. Yeah, like if they're an actual freeze response, I think people overuse trauma terminology now. So yeah, we're not really trying to do coaching to get out of a freeze response. I think that's more of a therapy thing. And you know, I refer to trauma therapists fairly regularly. Mm. I don't recommend you in terms of KEC, you don't have to have done another coaching qualification first. Not necessary. We will teach you the basics from scratch. So it's not necessary to have done another coaching qualification first. Some people like to do that, or they like to add that. They like to add that afterwards to learn more like, you know, traditional verbal coaching techniques. Um, yeah, people worry a lot about insurance. I mean, I've never been sued. I think it's a little bit, what was the word? It's just a strange thing people have an obsession with in the UK and some countries. But you can still get insured through, you can still get insured like through, I believe, through an insurance company if you've done KEC in the UK. I think every country has different rules, but I know a bunch of my students have got insurance, so I wouldn't say that's an issue. Should you like gambling? So yeah, people are often very I'd say hyper vigilant about those sort of things. Yeah. I mean, if you're working in ethical practice in a calibrated way, I like the chances of hurting someone with embodiment coaching, it's very gentle. Mm. Oh, it says that on the website, does it? Where does it say that on the website, Jade? Maybe it's something we used out of date that we need to change. Is it in the Q&A at the bottom? Maybe you could type that. We'll have that changed. So yeah, no, we don't advise that. I think maybe we used to, but now we cover the basics of coaching in a kind of optional thing. So it's been shifted in the Q&A. Okay, it's an old one. Thank you, Jade, for alerting me to that. Okay, maybe you can share the KEC website, Julia, if people are interested. They can come and train with us. You're all welcome. Thank you for being an attentive audience.